Hey guys, it's Jessica. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I'm glad you're here. I'm having so much fun interviewing these businesses, and I really think you'll find the information we share to be of great value. My business is Organic Girl Health Coaching, and I get to help moms go from not feeling so good to feeling amazing. We do this with using food and herbs. We're detoxing, we're cleansing at the cellular level. If you have any questions, you can reach out on my website, jessicadavisrn.com, or through social media. I am Organic Girl Health Coaching. Have a blessed day.
Hey there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. I'm Jessica. I'm Jessica, and this is the Organic Girl Health Coaching Podcast. And we're all about helping holistic-minded moms find businesses that align with them. And today I have my friend Arrin. Hey, Arrin. And Arrin and I just met, I think, just this year. I think 2024. Yes. At the Leah Center, which is any of you out there familiar with Kansas City area, you need to go. It's a great healing center, has lots of modalities and really great people. So anyway, met Arrin there. And like I do, I always end up talking to people and getting information about them and what they do in life and all that stuff. And so she is super cool. And it's interesting. We've had like the same job in the past. It really interesting. That was kind of weird. So she's got a really cool story. She does some amazing stuff and has a lot of knowledge that on topics that I don't know anything about, honestly. So I'm super excited for her to talk about it. And Arrin, if I ask dumb questions, please forgive me.
There's no such thing.
I know they always say that, but so I always interview on the 3 B's. So your biography, your bio, your beliefs, and your business. So would you tell us a little bit about you?
Of course. So like she mentioned, my name is Arrin. I am a holistic birth keeper at Pathological here in Kansas City. I am a mother of 2. I wear many hats. I'm a certified full spectrum maternal health consultant, aka a doula. I've been having a little bit of beef with the word doula, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. I'm a student midwife, birth assistant, womb wellness coach, endocannabinoid vitality specialist, and a budding mycologist, and kind of get into that. So my journey as a birth keeper began in 2020 with a nonprofit specializing in maternal and infant wellness. That is where I've developed my doula skills. I've deepened my knowledge in areas like ancestral herbal practices and maternal health consultancy. Previously, I served as a doula supervisor and mentor, supporting Black and Brown families and working to like dismantle generational shackles. So I feel like it takes a village to raise a child. The mother must be mothered, the father must be fathered, and the community must communicate. So it's my mission to reshape perceptions around childbirth, equipping families with empowerment tools. Birth is indeed doula-ble. Okay, I don't know if you see what I did there, but and these tools become pillars of like strength and like wisdom for everyday life and future generations. So restoring the matriarch is that's what my passion is. So in essence, I'm a guardian of empowerment and a custodian of like life's genesis. I'm just committed to like fostering resilience and empowerment for everyone. So that's a little bit about me.
Beautiful. And what brought you to that point in 2020?
Yeah. The story before that is giving birth to my humans. I'm a child of 9, and my mom, I was always obsessed with her when I was a child, but I wasn't obsessed with the baby factor. I feel like a lot of children, when they hear that they have a sibling coming along, they're like, oh my gosh, I have a sibling coming along. I didn't care about that. I cared about my mom and caring for her. And I remember reading books, didn't know what I was looking at, so I just really relied on the pictures. And there was a show on TLC that used to come on that was called Baby Story. So I've always been obsessed with like focusing on the parent, even on the show, like, oh wow, look at them preparing for the baby. What things you gotta prepare for the baby? I always thought about the preparation and the care and who's gonna take care of them. That's a whole nother human, you know? So when it came to me birthing my children, I have since like left that thought process. When I became a teenager, I wanted to be a fashion designer, left all that, and then I decided to have children. And I thought, just being ignorant, I thought having a baby was simply, you know, having intercourse. Boom, there's a baby, and that's really it. And that couldn't have been further from the truth. So I didn't prepare for my eldest. I didn't prepare. I prepared a little bit more for my second, but the lack of preparation, especially being a woman of color in the healthcare system, was just a huge setup. It was just a big like L on my part. It was a big loss on my part because I was treated very, very, very. It was inhumane the way that I was treated. So just the cascade of events that took place at my birth, with my eldest, hers is the one that really propelled me into this rape, because I was violated the most there. But my daughter was like due a day before my birthday, which is February 27th. My birthday's on the 28th. And I just remember thinking all these things. I hadn't went to a childbirth education class. I just didn't know what was going on in my body. And I noticed that my daughter, her movements had like slowed down. And I didn't know what else to do. I went to my mom. My mom is just so exhausted. Like I said, there's 9 of us. The youngest at the time would have been, I want to say like 10. I can't remember how old she was in entirety, but there was all of them. Like the oldest was like 35. So there's a lot of us, and at a different like age span. My mom was just tired. So I went to her though, and I was just like, hey mom, like I don't feel, you know, my baby moving as much, you know, and she's very much so like white coat syndrome is her thing. Mm-hmm. So she's like, you need to go to the hospital, like, you know. So I went to the hospital, they did all the tests, and they was just like, baby's fine. Baby's perfectly fine. Heart rate's fine. Sometimes when babies get bigger in the womb, they move a little bit less, but here are the signs to know whether or not what baby is communicating to you, you know? So anyways, they said everything was fine, but they was like, well, since you're here, let's go ahead and induce you. The baby will come faster, you know. They're just like, they're hyping me up, but I'm like, again, just being ignorant, I just didn't know. And when I didn't know these things, I was like, okay, cool. So they said, we're going to induce you with Pitocin. Didn't know what Pitocin was. Oh my gosh, I had contractions that went from something I could handle to I am like feeling like my body is breaking into pieces, and no one is there to help me. And I was laying on my back. I couldn't move. Like, it was just a whole bunch of things. And just literally from the beginning to the end, all the cascade of events, because I had Pitocin, which would lead me to ask for like an epidural, which would lead to like the baby, that concoction of things leading to the baby's heart rate. Now they got to take my baby. Like, just everything like took off very, very quickly. And they had rolled me to like the OR room for a belly birth. And even while I was going through that, because I had so much like drugs in my system, it was hard for me to stay awake during surgery. And the anesthesiologist that was at my head, he kept smacking me. He was just like, you got to wake up. Like, you want to wake up? Or if you don't wake up, you want something to happen to you or your baby? And he smacked me so hard. Like, he just kept smacking me. And I just remember, like, I can't stay up. Like, I can't even, like, vocalize what's going on. Like, he was just talking really reckless to me. And then, like, no one explained anything. When I was in postpartum, like, nobody explained anything to me. I remember just feeling out of my body. And just the way that they talked to me, I didn't see a lactation person. Once my baby was born, I didn't see a lactation person until discharge. Now it's like 3 days in, and I don't know what I'm doing with my breast. So it was just all those things. And then, like, my second, I got a midwife, but this midwife was with me on board with doing a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And towards the end, my last couple of weeks, she scared me and was like, yeah, I'm really concerned about you doing this VBAC because you're at a high risk for uterine rupture. Now, knowing what I know, the chances of that is not as high as she was making it seem. I had the right to do a vaginal birth after cesarean, but she didn't allow me to. So I was like, oh my gosh. And so all of that bled over into like my motherhood, like how I viewed motherhood. I was so depressed. I didn't know what was going on. I had complications afterwards. And I just remember thinking like, oh my goodness, like this cannot be life. This cannot be life. I don't know, like I was talking about birth one day on my Twitter, and there was a girl that was like, hey, like she lived in New Jersey. She's like, hey, I don't know if you've ever heard of this place, but this particular place was called Uzazi Village. You should go there. You should look into being a doula. I was like, what's a doula? You know, so I'm like searching everything. I'm like, wow. And I started crying. I was conflicted because I was just like, where is this at? I needed this person. Okay. I needed this person. What is going on? So basically that's where everything started for me. I didn't want women, especially women of color, to experience what I experienced. Because that was not a cool introduction to motherhood. So that's how I began my doula journey.
Okay. Where, do you mind saying where you birthed?
Yes. So, for my first child, I had birth at the time it was called Shawnee Mission Birthing Center.
Okay.
But now it's Advent Birthing Center. And I chose that place because my mom had all of us natural. All 9 of her children natural, no medications or anything. So I was like, I know it's definitely doable. So I want to go to a birth center that's, in my mind, is separate from a hospital. I've learned since being a doula, it's no different. It's a marketing tool. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to choose that place. And then with the second place, I chose a midwife, and she happened to be at Overland Park Regional. So that's where I had birth the second time around.
Okay. And with both of those, were you able to breastfeed then with your girls? How did that work?
Yes. So I breastfed my eldest for like on and off 5 months. It was a lot of breast milk, formula. I just didn't know what I was doing. Right. And then with my second daughter, there was this person that was just so sweet at the WIC office. And I told her, I said, hey, I tried breastfeeding. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. My breasts hurt. My nipples are bleeding. I don't know what I'm doing. So give me formula. And she was a sweet woman. She didn't judge me or anything. She was just like, do you know how breast milk is made? I said, well, it's in my breast. It comes out my nipples, you know, and she had to like break it down for me. And when she broke it down for me and held my hand throughout the entire process, even called and checked on me. And I went on to breastfeed her for 3.5 years. And I was like, all from education? I could have did this with my first baby. But I went on to breastfeed her for 3.5 years just from the education that she provided me.
Well, that's amazing. At the WIC office. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, so that kind of leads into then like your beliefs. I'm assuming all of this experience kind of helped shape some of your beliefs in that area.
Absolutely. So So what I would say for my beliefs, I believe that conception starts well before intercourse even happens. So conception starts with a thought. You know, what state were you in when you met your partner? What was the energy of the relationship, and what was the energy with yourself? Did you have self-care routine in place? Have you mothered yourself? Like, you know, once you answer those questions, reflect back on how those things may have manifested into like physical ailments within pregnancy, birth, and even the postpartum period. So I was like, okay, so I've been a doula for a while. By this time, I've been a doula for a minute, and I feel like my why, my beliefs change as I learn more, as I go down like more of a health rabbit hole, if you will. So with that being said, I found that being a doula is not enough. Being a midwife isn't enough. So the reason why I felt like it wasn't enough for what we had is because there was deeper issues. The deeper issues was the pregnancy diseases or diseases that we're seeing within the body. I've learned that a lot of these things weren't natural, but every time someone said that something wasn't natural, I'm like, well, what is natural? You know, what does a natural pregnancy looks like? What does a healthy female body looks like? You know, so I believe all that starts at conception in the way that we know and the way that we do things. I truly believe that women birth how they live. So birthing people have a like an innate like ability to give birth. A person's confidence and ability to give birth is either enhanced or diminished by the care provider in place of birth, especially for families, families with like traditional practices. So things like that. So with that being said, I believe that the birthing bodies or womb owners should start looking at their body as a whole. They should have a holistic mindset to have more of a you're growing a human, you know what I mean? You're growing a human being. So 3/4 of a pregnancy is what you put in your body. Nutrition is key. Like many OBs I've learned do not have enough education when it comes to nutrition. For many, it could be an elective for them. So the body is like a car. There are different parts that only certain mechanics can speak to. I don't believe that your average like provider, specifically an OB, are equipped to like speak to every part of the body and effectively address and nurture those concerns. So the body, I feel like a doctor maybe has less than 4 months to get to know their patient, and their overall things, their history, what's brought them to this point in time, what mental things have aided in this current disease that you're seeing in them. Like, how can you effectively address that? So
in their 15-minute appointments.
And they're 50, like, no, let's make sure we mention that we're sitting in the waiting room 30, 45 minutes, and then we get up in there and that appointment's 10 to 15 minutes. Like that's wild to me. So I really feel like the birthing body needs a team. The OB is already outnumbered by mom and baby. So think about it. We have 12, different systems within our body. The baby also has that. So then essentially the provider is being left to speak to 24 systems. Like, that's wild, 24 systems. So the birthing family needs a birth gang, squad, team, village, however you look at it. I just feel like they need that. It should be the birthing person, including her intuition. She needs to invite her to the party. The baby, right? Because I feel like we often forget about the baby. Like, we're making decisions to fit our comfortability versus the baby. It's mom's job to create contractions, you know what I mean? And to nourish and put things in her body. But it's baby's job to shimmy down. Baby actually puts in a lot of work. They're tired, and then you have the partner, provider, whatever. You should have a doula, a chiropractor, a physical therapist, a cardiologist. I want to emphasize on cardiologists because I don't know if you've heard of like delayed or optimal cord clamping, but when we are cutting that cord, we're cutting it it's too premature, and like we're losing 1/3 of our oxygen that has been stored up for us in that umbilical cord. And then it's leading to iron deficiency. If we don't have oxygen, we can't make red blood cells, right? Like, our iron carries our oxygen. So we're already at a disadvantage, you know what I mean? So because of that, because we are losing oxygen, or we're anemic or iron deficient anemic, you know what I mean? Like, our heart is working harder. We're already growing a baby. The placenta is also utilizing a lot of blood. So we need to see a cardiovascular specialist, because we need to see what our health of our heart is after it's been working harder than it needs to. You need a nutritionist, a dietitian, a mental health therapist. You need all these things. It just can't be all on one person. And that's what my beliefs are, especially with having a birth worker, someone that can educate you, someone that can like spiritually and physically support you. The mind, body, and spirit must be in unison to stay in balance. And when we are in balance, we're seeing all these diseases. I just really feel like we're seeing more like diseases within the body as we watch the world just kind of like drift away from the way that nature has things, the law that is in nature. So that's what my belief is when it comes to everything.
I want to go back. I wish I'd known about the delayed cord clamping with my kids, but I didn't. And I'm wondering now, it makes so much sense to me. Why do you think that providers, the nurses, nobody knows about this or talks about this? It's done as quickly as possible. Do you think it is just time is money and they're just trying to get you in, get you out? Do you have any ideas on why that isn't?
I have a lot of theories. some of these theories, some health professionals be really upset with, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I have the theories of what you're saying, like time is money. I don't know if you've ever, when you've had your children and everything like that, I don't know if you've heard about what Ricky Lake did, a special she did that was called The Business of Being Born. And it talked about basically women, no matter what color you are, right? Basically they want you on those beds and off those beds. It's a business having a baby. It really is. I mean, really, there's a war on the womb because of the business and the billions and billions of dollars that they're making off of the female body. So I truly feel it's that. A big chunk of it, I just feel like it's ignorant. I think delayed cord clamping was introduced in 1914, I want to say, and it was just a person on a whim that decided, hey, let's cut the cord, and it became popular. There was just no rhyme or reason why they did it. So I feel like a huge chunk of it is just being ignorant. A lot of providers that are in position, they've been in this practice for a long time. They've been doing it a long time. So why do we need to switch it? You know, a lot of doctors are not keeping up with research. Research is forever changing. And I do feel like that what's cutting the cord, I know we don't have time for that, so I'll probably just make a post about it. But when we cut the cord, it leads to literally a long-term effect on the human body. And with that being said, like, we think that like having like headaches or having fatigue or memory loss is related to different diseases, but a lot of diseases, chronic illnesses, have been directly linked back to iron deficiency or iron deficiency with anemia. It's been directly linked to all those things. So I found out that I was anemic just for having a lump, feel like there was something in my throat. A good doctor was just like, yeah, are you anemic? Have you checked your levels yet? So I think it's because of that, it creates a myriad of like issues. So then you have all these specialists that are jumping on it. Everybody gets a cut into the check. You know what I mean? So I feel like a big chunk of it is that. There's basically the umbilical cord from the mother. You know, she has in the cord, the mom has created 30% more blood for the baby to have on reserve, right? The mother is the baby's first IV infusion, their first iron infusion, stem cell infusion, all the things, right? Literally, the mom is breathing that oxygen, that blood that's in the baby's cord. The mother is breathing life into the baby until their lungs are being used. I've seen too many times hospital births and versus like home births where that delayed cord clamping is a thing. They'll wait till the cord stops pulsating, right? Just like nature does. In nature, you see a dog or a mammal give birth. They don't sever that cord until that cord is done pulsating, right? Those babies typically are not crying. They're content. They're fine. They're all those things. But in the hospital, that snipping the cord and hearing that baby scream, that is absolutely traumatic to babies. Yeah. Absolutely traumatic. Yeah. So their oxygen is being snipped immediately. You know what I mean? So yeah, I believe that's the reason. They're wanting to take stem cells out of the blood as well. I see them do a lot of cord banking and everything like that, and not really telling the moms what it's being used for, but I wondered what you thought on that. Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot to say on that, but I know.
I do want to ask you about, do you do the placental like encapsulation? What are your thoughts, beliefs on that for a mom?
So it really depends. I say specifically depends culturally. And the reason being, I had started off being a placenta encapsulator. So with that being said, as I learned a little bit more about the organ and what really it does during labor and birth for our babies, and just learning about what I am, like my background is, African spirituality and the way that they did a lot of things as well. So traditionally in African traditions, we bury the placenta. I have this thing. So I always say in transitional labor, when babies being birthed, that women will leave their vessels to go fetch the soul of their child and bring it back earthside. So that's why in that transitional stage, we don't really, when you're talking to a woman, she's not really here because she's not here. Like, she's left her vessel temporarily. They'll get her child and to come back here. So how I'm putting that over into placentas is that the placenta is known as the forgotten chakra. So we know that the chakras are the energy centers and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So when we're not properly caring for our placentas for whatever reason, whether we are letting people have it or whether it's being cared for, or are you utilizing herbs afterwards, what do you plan on doing, right? I feel like it's an organ that, you know, basically is taken out the body each time there's a baby. I just feel like we should just not even tamper into it for a lot of spiritual reasonings, because whatever our baby felt, whatever toxins, like the placenta holds a lot of toxins. So if you weren't eating things that you were supposed to be eating, you had harsh metals or you've had harsh things, that's all sitting in the placenta. So now you're just reabsorbing it. You're just reabsorbing it. And again, spiritually, I just feel like because it's known as the forgotten chakra, it needs to be buried. It's like a ceremony. Giving birth is a ritual, and being able to bury the placenta is it's the end of the ritual. It's ending it. You know what I mean? So women go through an ego death. I feel like that's tied to the placenta. And I feel like I have this theory, don't know if it's true, but I feel like women that give birth and let the hospitals have their placentas, I feel like a lot of those women do have a risk of having postpartum depression because she's no longer connected with the very thing that was connecting her and her baby. She didn't have a say in what's going on, and what are they doing with it? Are they taking the stem cells out of it? Are they just throwing it away? Is it just on a pile of a whole bunch of spiritual other chakras that are just laying there? Like, what is going on with it? And I feel like a lot of women, because I feel like throwing away the placenta or mistreating the placenta can cause for women not to land their spirits to land back in their vessels in a comfortable way. Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts. I do know that, like, if you plan to breastfeed, I support women no matter what they decide. These are my beliefs, but whatever you decide to do, I'm going to give you evidence-based information. I do know that there has been studies lately that if you decide to consume your placenta, that you should wait until your milk supply is where it needs to be and is adequate, because it has the very hormones that tells your body not to make anything like any milk, any mature milk. It only makes colostrum. It has those hormones in there. So if you're ingesting that, you're basically telling the body that it's still pregnant and not to make any mature milk. So then the baby's only feeding off of the colostrum, the day one milk. So I say, if you're going to do it, hey, just make sure it's careful, you know, make sure you're getting it from a person that is, you know, knows their stuff and are clean, and that you wait like maybe a couple of days or maybe even a week before you decide to start consume your placenta.
Wow. Do you, so for people who might have a lot of guilt on their birth and what they went through, what kind of, do you have any spiritual practices that you talk about or that you could recommend for like me? Like, I had no idea, and cord was cut, placenta's gone. Yeah.
I would say I would recommend what is called the bone closing ceremony. And basically what it is where a woman, her spiritual team, it could just be her doula, she's going to be laid out. And there's a ritual that is basically performed where she has all these different fabrics that would be like at her, like around her head, at her shoulders, like at different points of her body. I would say it's low-key like following the chakras, you know, the energy centers. And it's basically going through and closing off those energy centers for the mom. So one of my doula sisters had brought to my awareness, I've been trained as a bone closing specialist, but I didn't really look at it the way that she said it to me. She said bone closing ceremony should be for any time that there's birth trauma, which is why I went into it. Anytime that there's birth trauma, or when a woman's just giving birth just in general, or if there's been any trauma outside of birth. So if she's in a sexual abuse, or she's a victim of sexual abuse, or, you know, anything, any trauma that takes a woman out of her vessel for a little bit, she needs a bone closing ceremony. So we do that. Sometimes we may, with clients, it just really differs, but I would say that would be the go-to one. I've had clients where we went to Dollar General, bought a whole bunch of like glass, took a Sharpie and wrote on the things of what she wanted to release. We found an empty parking lot. We cleaned it up at the end, but we found an empty parking lot and we just threw glass with all the things that's on it. So it's just really having a cord cutting ceremony, basically spiritually for yourself. You now need to cut your umbilical cord. Essentially is what we would recommend. So
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, do you want to go into then kind of what you're doing or what you offer now as a business?
Yeah, so I still offer traditional doula services as well as specifically like plant medicine. So I'm a Cannadoula. So I am more so focusing on the endocannabinoid system. So that system is what basically modulates everything for us. You know what I mean? Like it is definitely in control of how our body responds. So like just plainly put, you know, what the endocannabinoid system does. Just imagine that your body is just this big bustling city with an endocannabinoid system. And that system is the master conductor. This amazing network of chemical messengers and cellular hubs work like a thermostat, keeping everything perfectly balanced. So basically, it's like a little DJ, ensuring that all your body functions groove together and balance and bringing peace and just an equilibrium to your inner world. You know what I mean? Your inner workings. So that system actually goes over it. It governs like your immunity, your inflammatory responses, your appetite, digestion. It covers like your mood and sleep, pain sensation, memory, thinking, many other body functions, which is very important in the pregnant body. So if that part of the body is not able to be in balance, how is it effectively growing as human without any issues? And how is her body not showing like results of it like failing essentially? You know what I mean? So I decided to, with being a doula and remembering I said it just felt like it wasn't enough. I found that I feel like I'm very close to addressing the root issues to a lot of things. I'm not a person that would just look at a symptom and then try to band-aid the symptom. I want to know what's causing it. I feel like root-based care needs to be a thing that needs to be prominent in anything that we do within the wellness space. So I was like, okay, so we got this endocannabinoid system. How can we tone that? So I teach women how to tone that system, whether they are pregnant or not. Like I said, I do traditional doula services. You know, gardening is not for everybody, right? Some cannot do it. Some people are just there's too many there's so much stigma and propaganda that surrounds this beautiful and magical plant. So I'm like, okay, well, I can still teach you some things. Like you don't have to do those things for that, because all gardening is a supplement. So you still have to be able to create your own endogenous hormones. You know what I mean? So how can we do that? Yoga, massage, getting massages, talking to a therapist, stretching, going to a chiropractor, certain like foods that you eat can help tone that system. So I really want to address toning that system with moms. So I educate them on that. If they are gardening moms, I do educate them when it comes to like harm reduction. Like, let's talk about it. How are you consuming it? Why are you consuming it? Do you need to be consuming it? Do you even know where to get quality flour from? You know, who are you buying it from? Do you know how they're growing it? You know, I'm going through like all the different things, teaching them their rights, their human rights. You know, and I'm teaching them that. For some people, I've had to be a caregiver where, you know, I'll go to the different dispensaries and help them pick out things. I teach them different modes of how to consume. You know, you don't have to inhale it. I actually rather pregnant people not inhale anything. Let's figure out let's figure out healthier ways. You know, like so a tincture, a salve. You know, just patches. Let's talk about different modes on how to consume it. And if you have to inhale it, can I teach you the ways to, or healthier ways to consume it? Can we do it through a mango leaf, a banana leaf? Can we do it through maybe hemp paper? Like, can we just not do it through things like that? And if you have to light it on fire, can you use a wick instead of a lighter? because all the carcinogens that are busting into the flower, you know. So I teach them all those things. I provide education surrounding that. I do utilize a lot of like medical astrology. I go over the different like tissue types. I factor in your natal chart. That's part of intake, because I need to know how to address these things, how it's going to sink in for you. I'm a big believer that I need to address a person's barrier before I can even penetrate, educate anything to them. So I need to know your natal chart. Are you a fixed sign? What are you? You know, so how can I properly hold space for you? So I teach that. I am a evidence-based birth instructor. So I hold childbirth education classes, because that's a huge thing. What else? I am a yoni practitioner, so I'm able to like speak to the health of the yoni, educate in regards to that. Also to be able to facilitate like yoni steams. What else do I do? We talked about the bone closing ceremony. I really introduce a lot of nutrition to moms and act as like a referral based person. So the business is called Pathological. So I know you know that pathology is a study of like disease. So in pathological, it's a play on words, obviously, but in my logo, you'll see that there's a bullet point replacing the first O in pathological. And the reason why that is one, to draw attention to what I have to say, because I have something important to say, right? But also two, to break it up. Like I wanna get to the point where people aren't having like disharmony, these imbalances in their body. I want to stop diseases from occurring. I don't want to keep studying diseases just to be studying them. I want to figure out how I can eradicate them. So that's where the word pathological comes from. You know what I mean? Like we gotta figure out different pathways. So that's what pathological is.
No, that's awesome. I'm ready to have another baby just so that you can assist me with it, Arrin.
That is crazy. You'll be starting all over.
I'm just kidding.
Your kids are gonna look at you crazy.
I'm like, oh man, if I could have had somebody like you though, that would have been just amazing. It would have been amazing. So I'm so thankful for you doing this for women and for all the education that you provide, because you're like the whole package. You know, you know the nutrition, you know the spirituality side, you know all of it, and that's awesome. And it just amazes me when you were talking about the endocannabinoid system. You know, I'm a nurse. I have a bachelor degree in nursing, and doctors, obviously they have, a doctorate. We didn't learn about that. Why do you think that is?
Well, I know why that is. I know why that is. One, like the reason, and for the viewers that don't or haven't picked up what we're putting down, the reason why that system hasn't been taught to at least 50% of doctors and nurses and all the people that are speaking to the different parts of the body is because they would have to explain why certain substances are federally illegal because those substances is actually what help us discover that system. So they don't want to talk about that. And honestly, some places wouldn't be in business if that system was talked about more. So
yeah. Oh goodness, what an interesting world we live in, right?
Yeah.
But it's we just keep shining your light, and I'll keep shining mine, and we'll keep educating and helping and guiding and learning ourselves. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So, well, Arrin, so you mentioned your business name. How can people find you or get a hold of you? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way would probably be Instagram, because everybody, but I am, so it will be a long way. So you can find my personal, but let me just make it simple. So you can email me at info@pathological, but pathological has 2 I's, at pathological.com. You can, I was going to say text me, but I'm trying to practice boundaries.
Let's do that.
I'll keep it at that. And then my website actually should be launching at the end of I don't know, maybe at the end of this week. And it's going to be www.thepathological.com. And if you guys happen to find me on Instagram without Instagram being a hater, it's going to be at Cannadoula Care. So that's my handle.
Yeah, and we'll put it in the description too. But yeah, I just always like to verbalize it as
Yeah.
well. Well, thank you, Arrin, for sharing
Of course.
all of your knowledge. I'm so glad this is recorded because I learned a lot. And it's
Yeah.
just amazing. You're such a good speaker as well. So thank you for
Oh, thank you.
coming
I
on my
appreciate
podcast.
it. I am grateful for sharing space with you always. Like, you're so amazing. I talk about you often, actually. So thank you for what you do.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Any last words or any thoughts before we go?
My last words would be that you are the CEO of your birthing experience. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do. So that's my last little thought process.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you guys
Yeah.
for watching. Please subscribe and watch all my other podcasts as well. Thanks. See you next time.